Hello chess players, and welcome to this next Practical Endgames lesson. We are continuing with the pass pawns theme, but today it's gonna be about protected passer, protected pass pawn. We'll soon see how it happens, what a type of pass pawn this is. But first, let's look at the homework from the last lesson. How did you manage to solve it? You can pause the video here if you didn't look at it. Maybe try to solve now. And the first move was, this was actually from the game Lombardy-Fischer 1960. And the correct answer is Rook c3. Black kind of gives away a bit of material, sacking back the exchange, but they're gonna get this pawn. And they basically transfer the game to the pawn endgame with the winning outside pass pawn. Yeah, so the last lesson was about outside passer. So here how it happens. And look at this. We have a potential on the side to create a passer since structure is asymmetrical. So of course next move is activating the king. King d2, king c4. Our king is dominating, active. Some couple shuffling around happened. b6 trying, of course, in future, yeah, to create the passer. Some pawn moves still happened. Black advanced more. And finally, at the moment, a5. a5, we are creating outside passer, which decides the game. Here, the game finished like this. Yeah, and our king, because of the outside passer, is much closer to the white pawns, and we go and take them all. So here, white resigned. I hope you managed to solve, to see this idea, yeah, transferring to the, or maybe you knew the game even, to transfer to the pawn endgame. Okay, next example. And what is a protected passer? So here we have a pawn which is called protected pass pawn. Why protected? Because he has a buddy here on g4 guarding it on h5. Yeah, so outside passer was a lone pawn, but here they are in pair. Yeah, they are in pair. They are protecting each other tactically, I would say. It's a pass pawn supported by one of your own pawns, making it much harder for opponent to stop. So as I said, these pawns guard each other tactically, because black king cannot just go to g4 and take it. Why? Because h5 will run away. So let's see this example. King e5 was played. Well, we know that if black pushes the pawn, you see the square. Yeah, very easy to see it once you draw diagonally, yeah, this line. So we are just in time to enter the square, and we stop that pawn. So the main move in this example is king e5. So we go forward with the king first thing. And the problem with black, as I said, yeah, they protect these protected pass pawn. Is protected tactically by this foundational pawn. So black cannot just approach the pawn and take it, because immediately this one runs away. So they have to stay basically in the square, which is where? Here. Yeah, 4 edges of the square, 4 corners. They have to stay there with the king. So we see another important thing of a protected passer. It always distracts the king. King f6 has to stay in the square, and we just advance with the king. And what happens here? The protected passer beats the outside pass pawn. Yeah, the strongest type, I would say, are 2 outside passers. They beat everything else, but here is just a lone passer, lone outside passer, and protected passer beats him. Why? Because he has no protection. He's a lone pawn, and we can easily go with the king to collect him. So here how the game could end. We just go collect that pawn, come back, and easily now, yeah, with the shouldering, easily can win, because black king always has to stay in the square. We shoulder him and easily come and collect the last pawn. So I hope you understood what is a protected passer from this example and how he compares, yeah, to outside passer. Let's see the next one. Here we have white to play. What do you think white should do here? How to play as white? Pause the video if you need. And the correct move is a4. Very important move. Only winning move, I would say. Creating protected pass pawn. If you thought about going immediately here, this impatience rushing to the pawns, this is just a draw. How is that? Maybe you can think of a move for black now. Black could play a4, splitting our pawns. You see, we didn't manage to connect these guys. So this pawn becomes like a lone pawn without any guardian. So takes. And I wanted to show you one important method here. How to calculate such races with the kings and the rushing to the pawns and promotion. Because if you calculate, I go here, he goes here, I go here, very easy to mix up and imagine, yeah, where the kings are wrongly or miss some pawn where it appears. So good methods to calculate from such positions are count each side's moves. So for example, white to play 1, 2, 3, we take the pawn, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moves till promotion, and we notice that our king will be here. Yeah, so now let's calculate with black how many moves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Also 8 moves. So we have 8 moves with white. And very important, white king is here, yeah? So no checks on the long diagonal. So let's just show how it happens, yeah? So when you're down on time, this is a perfect method to quickly evaluate such races. You just count each side's moves, the number of moves, how long it takes to promote. So here we can actually see that it's a draw. There is no, well, white can make a check, yeah? Discover check and exchange the queens, and it's a draw. So king h3 wouldn't win going after the pawns because black splits our pawns, but a4 is a winning move. Why is that? We created a protected passer, and now the king is tied to it. He has to stay in the square now. Yeah, this box, he has to stay there. And in the meantime, what we do, since the black king is tied to the pawn, we go and collect the remaining pawns. And the problem is, again, he cannot go here. This pawn runs away. So the power of protected passer. Okay, let's see the next example. And here we have a interesting one. Already white has a big asset, protected passer. And so due to this f5 protected pass pawn and its restricting effect on the black king, yeah, he has to stay there, white is much better. So how to win this position? What would you play with white? What do you think? Good move is a4. If you thought about c4, that's also good. If you thought about that, also wins. For example, king e5, king c3, king d6. Yeah, if king f6, we just take this pawn. And now you see again the advantage of protected passer versus outside passer. It beats the outside passer. And we just go and collect these two guys. Yeah, they might get exchanged, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, we just collect the remaining passer and go after the g5 pawn next. So c4 here, here. This was maybe the move, but again, we just go with the king forward. Now important move to make is king e5. Yeah, we go for some kind of race, but actually it's not a race. Yeah, if they push the pawn, we just take it, come back, and again we collect the b4 pawn, because black king always has to stay, yeah, in the square of this pawn. And if a4, we just come back now. We have entry square on b4, so we win this way. And king c5, and now we even use as a distraction this protected passer. It sometimes can run away, like an outside pass pawn can be used in such a manner, and we win here. So c4 is also correct if you thought about that. Let's see a4, king e5. We just need to basically split these pawns, yeah, make a one outside passer and then collect him. So ab is the correct next move. If c4, be very careful of such moves. Now black can make their own protected passer, and suddenly it's a draw because we cannot advance. Yeah, now our king is also tied to this pawn. So yeah, be very careful pushing the pawns. We first need to capture, then go c4, and finally we even get an example of the, if black plays b4, we get an example of the two outside passers beating the connectors like this. Yeah, the two outside passers are the strongest type of pass pawn in my opinion. Yeah, they beat everything else if they're too far away from each other. They don't even need a king help. So, and if a4, we just step with the king, and finally, yeah, we split these pawns, and final pawn will drop. White will eliminate the a pawn and bring his king back to the king side, winning the g5 pawn. So I hope you enjoyed these examples. Let's move on. Okay, next example was played in a game Tal-Fuchs 1964. As we know, Tal is a super aggressive player, but he played endgames also great. So black just played this move, pushing the pawn here, because they were afraid of some fixing pawns. And Tal found now a simple way of realizing his material advantage. Yeah, he has, as we see, pawn up. So, but how to convert this? So pause the video if you need. How would you play with white? The right move was ef, check, taking this pawn, and this and the next two moves produce a strong protected pass pawn on the h file, as we see. Yeah, it happens fg, hg, and h5. Here is our asset, protected passer. Now this will limit greatly the black king. He'll have to stay in the square. Yeah, he's staying here. And what's the next move? What's the follow-up? d5. Active follow-up, which leaves the knight helpless, I would say, and opens the king invasion. So ed was played, king d4, knight c4. Another excellent move by Tal was bishop b5. Yeah, more technical. If a4, then maybe black plays king f6, trying still to bring back the knight to f6 and so on. So this move was amazing. Why? Because if black takes the pawn, we have this pattern. Two squares separate knight and bishop, and many of you might know this. This is like a domination pattern, bishop versus knight. Look at this knight, totally limited. Yeah, he cannot go anywhere here because he either be taken or exchanged. This is the magic domination distance, two squares versus the knight. So for example, yeah, if he goes here, then we already seen from the last example, this is an easy win. Protected passer easily beats outside pass pawn. So in the game what was played after bishop b5, black went back, but now again bishop keeping this 2 square distance, limiting the knight. Knight e8, bishop here, knight f6, king e5, and actually black resigned even in this position after king e5. Why? They are dominated here, and it's a situation called Zugzwang. Yeah, every move for black is a bad one, so either they're gonna lose the pawn, or if the knight moves, or if king cannot move, yeah, has to guard the knight. So very nice conversion by Tal. Yeah, this takeaway from this game would be this creation of protected passer in the bishop versus knight endgame. All right, let's see the next one. Here we have a study example from Bottlik, 1952. Study created, and here we see that white is actually pawn down. Yeah, they have 4 against 5, but because of the protected passer and the potential with the king to invade, yeah, and take these pawns, black's position is very difficult at the moment. But okay, white's first move is clear. Yeah, king d4, f4, king e5, going after these pawns, a5, a3, of course. Black played a4 because they are running out of moves. If ab, black is actually in Zugzwang. Every move will lose something. Yeah, if they move the king, they lose d5 square, pawn. If they move any other pawns, they lose them. So they had to go a4 just to kind of gain the move. And now white initiates the attack on the rest of the pawns. Black has to go here. Now we come back, collect that pawn. At least black activated the king like this. So what now for white? Very important, crucial moment here. We arrived. What to do now with white? And the right idea is g3, undermining the enemy kingside pawns. We want to create, as we know, the protected passer will beat outside passer. We want to split these pawns in some way. Yeah? So temporary sacrifice, because our king is close. If king e2, it's only a draw. Yeah, but many people would play this move. So yeah, very easy to mess up the winning position. It's only a draw after g4. King goes here, king e5. Even if we push c6, it's gonna be a draw like this because black is fast enough, and both players will queen. So we can even use the technique from previous examples. Yeah, how to count the moves. We don't need to calculate, I go here, he goes here. We just count the moves for white. Yeah, king f5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 till promotion. And for black, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are queening at the same time. Important just to see where the kings are, so you don't run with the king into a checking square, yeah, for some reason. So, but seems like it's gonna be a draw, queen endgame there. So king e2, only a draw. So that's why g3 is a winning move, and black has to basically take it. If they don't take it, then we take it. And problem is black king cannot take, yeah, because we are much faster with the pawn. They have to take with the pawn, and king always has to be in this square. So eventually he can protect it for the moment, but finally we use even a protected passer as a outside passer to distract the king. And by doing this, it's called shouldering. Yeah, shouldering thing, we win the rest of the pawns. Okay, and if fg, then we go back with the king to collect the g3 pawn first. They go g4, doesn't change. Yeah, we go still back to collect these pawns. King e5, king f3, He hangs around with the king here. And now important, we just wait a bit. King f3. Don't blunder c6, yeah? This impatience really should watch out, yeah, for such impatient moves. It would be a huge blunder. Why? We just pushed the pawn for no reason and we didn't calculate the line. What happens here? We even lose, yeah, with white. Black's king is much faster and we lose, yeah? Always calculate such pushes. Don't push them randomly, yeah? If you see that you can push the passer. King f3 has to be played. We wait around a bit because black is in a zugzwang, yeah? They have to stay in the square or they either push the pawn. If they push the pawn, we just wait. Finally, they have to break contact with this pawn because there is no way to stay in the square. From f5, from f5, that's the corner of the square already, yeah, like this. So they cannot just get out of the square. They have to lose contact with this pawn. So king e6 takes and wins, and king f6, we also win like this. Again, black has to drop the pawn. So very kind of complex example. Black had a nice defense here, but still the protected passer triumphed against outside passers here in this example. Okay, let's look at the next one. Here it was actually not a study, but from a practical game. Danielsson-Larsson 2007. So kind of protected pass pawn can also play a role in securing a draw. So here white is in trouble because black is pressuring us. Yeah, last move was actually g4 by black, trying to break through from our position. And very interesting, how would you play here? Yeah, in the game the losing move was played, so think about it. How would you play with white? If you played hg, that was the game continuation and a big mistake. Why? Because black is breaking through. They are breaking our structure like this, and we're actually losing. Yeah, they're gonna take all these pawns. King is shouldering us, flanking us, and finally white, the game sacked, but black won with the passer here easily. So the right move was take with the f pawn. Why? King is coming to f2, and very hard to see from afar this idea. Now black already has a passer here, very dangerous, but just in time white creates their own passers. So hg, king g3, and finally we are just in time to yeah, we need to come back with the king. Yeah, if we play here, black is faster, he's queening with check, so we have to come back. And maybe you ask, what about this move? Yeah, but then we go back and it's kind of pendulum swings. Yeah, we go back, we want to get in front of the pawn, so e4 was played, but king got back in the game. Not the game, but this was like analysis, yeah, how to make a draw. So h4, king f4, and finally here is the protected passer. Yeah, what's the difference? In the future lessons we'll see what's the difference from connected passers. Yeah, because it's very similar. Connected passers, they don't have any other pawns on the neighboring files. Yeah, like here white, these two pawns have an opponent. Yeah, this f6 pawn, but connected passers won't have such an opponent, so that's why this formation is still called protected pass pawn. Either this black pawn would be on g5 somewhere, yeah, in between, like stopping a little bit these pawns. So this is the protected pass type. All right, and the game could end in this way. Yeah, now they are guarding each other. Black cannot take on g4. Game could end like this, and it's a draw because black splits finally, yeah, these pawns, but we exchange everything. Okay, some nice practical example there, and another practical example. This time it's black to play. Here was from the game Khalifman-Shaposhnikov 1998, and actually black won against such a strong player. here white is trying to survive by means of a fortress. Yeah, they're trying not to let somehow the rook in, guard all the pawns. But black's clever next maneuver puts an end to such illusions. Yeah, which maneuver did black think about? Black to play. Pause the video if needed. Find the winning continuation. First, black gave a check. King has to drop back, and if you have seen this move, congratulations. Rook c4 forces the pawn ending, where protected pass pawn secures an easy win. Yeah, so white has to take, otherwise these pawns are dropping. They took the rook, the exchange back, but after bc, what do we have? Suddenly protected passer, and f4 was played. But if king a2, we just go after the pawn. Yeah, protected passer, as we know, beats outside passer most of the time. So king e3, c3 would be kind of similar to the game. f4, king b5, king c3, king a4 would win, because white will eventually run out of moves. And in the game, king a3 was played, but then black made a reserve move, f5. But we also can sacrifice. Yeah, that's the feature of the protected passer. You can use it as an outside passer, yeah, to sacrifice it. And by trading the b and c pawns, black makes the d4 pawn an easy target. And here after c2, white actually resigned. Why? Because black is just winning the d4 pawn with flanking, yeah, with shouldering and flanking. So very instructive maneuver. Yeah, again, transposing to the pawn endgame with an exchange sacrifice, like we've seen in homework. So very nice. Okay, let's see the next position. And here we have another study from Chekhover 1951. Looks like white is in danger. Looks like almost lost there for white. What to do? This pawn, super dangerous. White is not even in the square at the moment. So what would you play? But our only hope is this d4 pawn. It's a protected passer. So what to play with white? Think about it, pause the video if needed. And the correct move is f5 sacrifice. Okay, what happens if we take that pawn? c3 and we lose, yeah, because we are not in the square. Yeah, this pawn goes through. If king f2 you thought about, then they kind of split our pawns. Yeah, no longer this d4 pawn is a protected passer. Now we have a bunch of isolated pawns. Yeah, they're passers but not as strong, and they're close together. Yeah, so they cannot use their outside passer advantage. So king e3, king d5, and after this we lose actually. Yeah, if we try pushing the f pawn, c2, king b3, e3 is much faster for black. Yeah, they're gonna queen first. So f5 only move. King f5, king f1, important idea. c3 is in the as a main move. But if maybe you're questioning, yeah, what happens if g4? Then we take, and king f2, nice kind of, I would say even triangulation here happening, yeah, or shouldering. And either black goes back, or c3, kind of similar thing happens in the main line. We go after that c pawn. So c3, king e1, g4, takes, and again king e2. A bit of shouldering happening here, not letting the king in so fast. c2, if king g3, then d5 escapes. If king f5, then we go, yeah, this way, and we win again, like in the main line as we see now. Yeah, d5, the moment black king steps out of the square, we push the passer. Yeah, black has to waste a move to distract our king to even win e3. but it's much faster. Yeah, we win the race like this, and white wins. This is a very easy win. Yeah, we just check with the queen, bring the king later. Yeah, when they push e2, and we win here. Yeah, so not an easy example to find this f5 move, but nice study here, kind of showcasing the power of the protected passer. Sometimes we can even drop a pawn, yeah, and as long as we have protected passer, it always keeps the king distracted, yeah, or tied to it. Okay, and what's next? Next is the final example of this lesson from a game Dearing-Erenburg 2004. So the idea of creating a protected pass pawn can take place in earlier stages in the game. Yeah, this is like, well, you could call it an endgame, yeah, maybe with middle game features, because queens are still on the board, but it's approaching the endgame, I would say. So at this point, black was probably hoping to kind of activate his position with c5, but it's white to move, and a very powerful move was played by white. What do you think? Pause the video. What did white play? Yeah, considering it's a protected pass theme, queen d6 was played, and yeah, very powerful, kind of suggesting exchanges, undoubling the pawns, queen exchange. If a5, if black doesn't exchange, then knight c5. This is very powerful. If queen e1 check, we block, and if they go for tactics, we win first, actually. Queen f8. Can you calculate from here? Yeah, how does white win? King b7, knight c5, all forcing moves. Now knight d7, excellent, and suddenly it's mate. Very fine line. So if not bishop a6, but let's say king b8, knight c5 would again be a very strong move, and black will be suffering. So, and my question to you is, after queen d6, what if queen b3? What if they just take the pawn? How would you win here? And easy answer, yeah, queen f8, king is forced here, and big fork, royal fork. So king d6 in the game, black took the queen, exchanged the queen, and they went after this d6 pawn, but just in time we created protected passer, and black has actually a very bad bishop here also. So knight d4 was played. Maybe you're questioning, what if f6? Unfortunately, this desirable move fails for black tactically. Yeah, maybe you can pause the video and see why. Well, we use little tactics. Yeah, we don't care about the piece because we're gonna break through, yeah, promote. So this is why it's winning. Okay, knight d4 was played. Bishop c4, yeah, have to step out with the bishop. c5, black is trying to at least sacrifice the pawn to open the bishop. If they wait passively, what do? We bring the knight here, and then a simple maneuver with the king. Yeah, we activated the rest of the pieces, but king is going to collect g5 pawn. So c5 was sacrificing the pawn. Bishop a8, black is kind of waiting passively. Bishop d5 might have been more fighting option, but then we go to such endgame, yeah, knight endgame with pawn up. So this would happen, yeah, protecting the pawns, and king is going forward, and at any moment if f6, king, knight c5 we always have. So king e6, f4 decides the game. White wins here. So in the game went like this: f3, white kind of just protected everything. King is marching forward, yeah, with a healthy extra pawn and more active pieces. The rest is easy for white. Just activate stuff, bring the king in. Yeah, here even b4 was played. Nice tactics in the endgame, yeah, forcing unfavorable exchanges. Now this bad bishop will lose the game for black. So just advancing the king, protecting the pawns, taking the rest. Yeah, and here's how the game finished. Final move, knight h7. Pawn is going through. So thought this was very instructive game. Yeah, how kind of from the end of the middle game straight towards the end game, white exchanged the queens and got protected passer like this. Yeah, and then converted his advantage. Very instructive example, I think. So, and the final position, this was the final example, but the final position is your homework. So here we have a pawn endgame, yeah, with many pawns. How should white play this position? What should we do to win this? Yeah, next lesson will be already about the connected pass pawns. So they're very similar to protected passers, yeah. Just the main difference, as I said, the connected passers don't have any opponent pawns on neighboring files. So here you can think about this example, and we'll see the answer in the next lesson. So thank you everybody for watching this. Hope you enjoyed the examples, and see you next time.